I'm Adam Zawadzkis, and I'm training for my first 100-mile race in July 2023. This is my weekly series covering each run from week 51 to week 77 of my ultramarathon training plan, spanning almost a year and a half. This is how week 54 went. This week kicked off with a plain old 12-mile easy run. I chose a smaller loop route around town I could run twice, as I felt like taking a break from any substantial amount of elevation gain. Beginning this run, I could tell I was carrying a bit of fatigue from the back-to-back long runs over the weekend, but luckily my knee loosened up and wasn't much of a problem. This was definitely one of those days where I wasn't excited to run and was quite crabby waking up, but ended up feeling great and energized around the midway point. The weather was also calm and not too offensive at 29 degrees with no wind. So overall, it was a peaceful morning run to set the mood for the rest of the week. On Tuesday the 14th, or Valentine's Day, I had a date with the local track. The calendar this time called for a 2-mile warm-up, followed by 4 1,200-meter repeats, then 6 800-meter repeats, wrapped up with a 2-mile cooldown. 1 minute of rest between each repeat. I was pretty excited for this workout as I was feeling quite rested after Monday's easy run, and this was going to be the first workout on a dry track in more than 2 months. I've never run more than a couple 1,200-meter repeats in a row, so I didn't know what to expect, so I aimed to keep all of my lap splits in this workout under 90 seconds to get the full anaerobic effect from this workout. That translates to about a 5:45 minute per mile pace across all repeats. Overall, this workout went great, and I could put some serious work in without snow or ice tripping me up. I hit all the splits and was properly tired at the end of it. Switching gears on Wednesday, it was time for a surprisingly warm, easy run for Ohio in the middle of February. This morning was about 52 degrees and windy, so I ditched the gloves and hat and had fun with this one. I didn't bring the camera with me as I really wanted to focus on my heart rate on this one and see how fast I could run in my low heart rate zone. This run was a very fun one, and it was nice to work up a sweat for once, as it is usually too cold to do so on an easy run at this time of the year. Now, Thursday, as usual, was my threshold run for the week. These cycle through 3 types of workouts: tempo, progression, and steady state. This time was a 7-mile tempo run, meaning the first mile was a warm-up, then miles 2 and 3 progressed through my threshold of roughly 6:20 pace, then dip below it for mile 4, and then get slower through miles 5 and 6, ending off with a cool-down mile for mile 7. Mile 1 warm-up was a 7:06, Mile 2 was a 6:34 with a 6:40 to 7:10 goal time. Mile 3 was a 6:07 with a 6:10 to 6:40 goal. Mile 4 was a 5:45 with a 5:40 to 6:10 goal. Mile 5 was a 6:11 with a 6:10 to 6:40 goal. Then Mile 6 was a 6:33 with a 6:40 to 7:10 goal. And finally, Mile 7 cooldown was a 7:14. I honestly didn't feel that great during this workout, mostly just stiff and a bit tired, and didn't expect any great splits while analyzing the run afterwards. However, upon completing the workout, I found out that I actually set a 5K lifetime personal record through miles 3 through 5 of 18:41. So that was a very pleasant surprise. That just shows the power your attitude has on your day overall, and running is one way to expose that on a smaller scale. On Friday, the eve of this training block's second biggest long run, the calendar called for a short 5-mile shakeout run. I pulled the pace back a bit for this one and just focused on how I was feeling ahead of tomorrow. My right knee felt a bit tight again, so I took note that I'll have to pay some extra care to it while stretching and rolling over the course of the day. It was also during this run I started feeling a cold coming on, which I was expecting around this time of year, which is when I always get sick for reasons I can't quite understand. A cold during training isn't detrimental to progress, but definitely increases perceived effort overall during runs, and can slow down easy runs quite a bit due to your body working harder to fight off the cold. It is possible to keep building fitness during a cold, but extra care in making sure you're properly hydrated, getting enough good nutrition, and sleep is important to recover quicker. Overall, this is a nice short run, and who knows, this cold might end up just being a week of the sniffles. Finally, Saturday was the day I drove back down to the towpath to get a 26-mile training long run done. This was a self-supported long run, and since I planned to be out there for up to 4 hours, I packed quite a bit. This included 2 17-ounce soft flasks filled with liquid carbs and electrolytes, hand warmers, extra hat and gloves, TP, and gels that I would be consuming every 25 minutes to stay energized throughout the entire run. It is important to stay on top of nutrition while running these longer runs so you don't bonk. This is what the running community calls completely running out of energy and having to walk it in, which could take hours. I started at 4 in the morning under the headlamp, and even though I didn't feel the greatest starting off, the run got progressively better. Miles 1 through 13 were all in the dark, and I spent most of my time fiddling with my water bottles because the caps kept trying to freeze on me. And I was listening to some 2010s pop music, the stuff I listened to growing up. After mile 13, the sun started to rise, and I was presented with a beautiful morning on my way back, so there was a lot more to see and enjoy. By this time, my music switched to jazz and blues. And before I knew it, 26.24 miles were complete. I sprinkled in the .2 so I could say I ran a marathon for fun. I was very surprised by how good I felt after the run, with no pain or soreness anywhere. Even the feeling of sickness from yesterday was nowhere to be found. I was just pretty tired. So now I know the training is working. A year ago, I could barely run 6 miles without getting wiped out. In conclusion, this week was definitely one of the smoothest in this training block. I didn't have any soreness, my energy levels were consistent, and the weather was very cooperative. I got to run on a dry track and get a good workout in, as well as setting a new 5K personal record on Thursday. This week came out to be 67.91 miles, which is down from last week's 70, but the intention of pulling the mileage back a bit is to make sure the body feels good settling into a higher than normal mileage before building again, giving it a chance to acclimate to a new level of physical stress. We are now 1 month out from the 50-mile race and only have 2 more weeks of building before the taper. So thank you so much for watching, have a great week, and I hope to see you in the next weekly recap.